expected to do it all. But it does have a role to play, which is why forums like this is so important, to have that conversation, as Al talked about, to help create conditions for economic and community development over the long term. That needs to be our goal. Al also talked about how proud he is of his father and many people in this room and mothers and others who've served this country. And we talked about the greatest generation, which I think Al's family. The greatest generation understood generational responsibility. And we have gotten away at too many different levels of government, too many different levels of that commitment to generational responsibilities. We need to have the courage to make decisions today that are going to benefit generations 10, 20, 30 years down the road, long after we're out of government. And we can't just be looking towards just the next election cycle. But what are we doing today that are going to make and create opportunities in future sectors of the economy for the future? And that is one of the things Governor Patrick and I have tried to do and bring to the way in our philosophy of government on a day-to-day basis. Crumbling and antiquated infrastructure like roads, bridges, and schools don't magically get better on their own, and not for free. So long before the economic crisis hit, the Governor and I launched a long-term plan working with our counterparts in the House and Senate to invest for the long term, to start to chip away at that deferred maintenance and that debt, and to position Massachusetts for positive growth. With our partners in the legislature, we passed nearly 10 bond bills. And I like to think of those bond bills as jobs bills in a single session. And that hasn't happened in 30 years. And what are those bond bill or job bills? There's the life sciences and biotech, which has created jobs even in this economic downturn. Higher education, broadband, investing in nearly 70 communities that have no or limited internet access. Think about your businesses today. How could a business, a school, a municipality function without connectivity to broadband internet access? Yet we have nearly 70 communities with little or no internet access. Housing, transportation, nearly 600 structurally deficient bridges across the state. And all we need to know, we all know what happens when a bridge certainly is a public safety component, but there's also an economic impact when a bridge is closed, or there's weight restrictions and trucks can't travel over them, and what that adds to congestion, what it adds to costs. And working with the legislature, we developed a 5-year capital plan to make billions of dollars of investments in road, rail, and bridges, our seaports, housing, green energy, public education, and broadband. And we've done it in a way that we can afford, with a debt affordability analysis, which has never before been done in government. And we did it with the imprimatur of the Wall Street bond rating agencies, so that we are engaging in a pay-as-you-go approach and beginning to address so much of that deferred maintenance. And I just want to give you a little sampling. I asked my staff as we were getting ready for today just if they could put together just a short list of various state projects that we've launched in the Merrimack Valley. And the list is long, and I know that the mayors want to speak, and they may mention a few of them as well. But let me just talk about the bridges, because they're a metaphor, I think, to our whole approach. We decided to prioritize bridge repair, and let me give you some of those projects. We're replacing 6 bridges along 495 in Lowell, a $37 million project. In Methuen, a $10 million project, rebuilding the Route 28 bridge over 213. In Lawrence, a $10 million project to rebuild the Broadway bridge that takes Route 28 over the Merrimack. We're about to start construction on a $50 million project to replace the Bates Bridge in Groveland and rebuild some of the approach roads to the bridge from Haverhill. In the design stage is a $40 million project in Amesbury to rebuild the Main Street Bridge over the Merrimack, and a $6.4 million project to rebuild the Rocks Village over the river. The single largest project in our program is the Whittier Bridge, which, as you know, is a $285 million effort to replace the I-95 bridge over the Merrimack River in Evans Place, and it's now in its early stages of design and environmental planning. And as I mentioned, beyond bridges, we're investing in higher education with a $40 million academic building at UMass Lowell, and we're also building projects at Northern Essex Community College in Lawrence and Haverhill. We're investing in commuter rail with a $10 million project to expand capacity by laying double track from the Wilmington Junction to the Andover Street in Lawrence. In 2008, we created also the Brownfield Support Team to help communities deal with some of the more challenging environmental projects in the Merrimack Valley, which was home to our industrial revolutions. One of the negative aspects of that legacy is brownfields and cleaning those up, and I certainly know as mayor of Worcester cleaning up a lot of those brownfield sites can be a challenge. And it takes public-private partnership. And we've assembled brownfield support teams, and particularly to help us in some of our cities, like Haverhill and Lawrence and Lowell, and even some of our mill towns, to clean up some of those properties. We created 5 pilot projects, including the former Ted's Tires property in Haverhill. And I'm pleased to report that the cleanup there is now substantially complete, and the property is going to be redeveloped into a 325-space intermodal parking facility for the downtown, within walking distance to the intermodal commuter rail station. Now, I could go on from housing to Lowell, to waterfront and parking projects in Newburyport, to economic development in Lawrence. From one end of this region to the other, we're making important strategic investments on a pay-as-you-go approach to help move the economy forward and address the decades of neglect left behind by politicians too willing to paper over problems and leave legacies of unconscionable debt. Now, we all, unfortunately, had to witness that Patriots game a few weeks ago. And, you know, as a mayor and a municipal leader, I appreciate infrastructure investment, the pothole, the sidewalk repair, the street resurfacing, water and sewer. Bridges, highway, rail projects are the same. I take the same approach, I know the governor does too, to that type of thing. It's what I call the fundamentals of government, the blocking and tackling. It doesn't always get the attention it deserves until it's not there. But that's what we're working on extremely hard, making those long-term investments and doing it in partnership with the legislature. When we engage in that bond bill program, that jobs program, if you will, we work with the legislators, asking people like Linda Dean Campbell and Chair Bador and Mike Costello and all the other different reps and senators, what were their priority projects in that region so we could work together to address that. So we are working in collaboration on those things that matter most in our communities and reestablishing this state's commitment to generational responsibility. Just wanted to also just thank as well the federal partners for their help in terms of us building on some of the momentum on the infrastructure. Congressman Tsongas and Congresswoman Tsongas and Congressman Tierney. We've committed nearly $2 billion in federal recovery funds this year, including $228 million to a number of programs and projects to communities here in the Merrimack Valley, and I want to thank them for their support. If people want to see a town-by-town listing of that, they can go on mass.gov to get a breakdown of that as well, but I want to thank them as well for their work. These are challenging times, but if we bring that same spirit of generational responsibility, can-do attitude that this region is known for and the state is known for, I believe that we can work our way through these challenging times. Not out of the woods yet, but I think we're building a momentum here that is helping establish a platform so that as the economy improves and accelerates and getting better, we have a real platform for sustained and robust growth in this Commonwealth for decades and generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Well, Joe told me each of the mayors and town managers had 5 minutes to speak, and that we're adjourned at 9 o'clock. So if you would all start speaking right now, we'll listen and get the hell out of here.
I don't think I set up that way.
Oh, all right. So I better get going. Talking about infrastructure, and certainly a project that is going to help a local economy, downtown Andover, has completed its construction, and we